Welcome all back to Dominant Mets Nation. And today, I gotta say, we got a little bit of a surprise video. Going into the offseason, I didn't think I would be talking about this guy going to the Mets. But you know what? There's a lot of smoke around this particular man, and his name is Alex Bregman going to the New York Mets. Wow. All right. So we're going to examine the details about that. And then we're going to examine some pros and cons about Mr. Bregman going to Queen. All right, folks, I'm going to need, as always, your help on this one. Does it make sense or does it not make sense? Okay, let's get into that. But first, I just want to give you an update. I've had some subscribers, great subscribers, ask about the channel memberships. They are up now and running. So if you'd like to join as a member, go for it. It helps support the channel immensely. There is no pressure at all. It just, like I said, it is a little bit extra. But you know what? Let's get this video started off right. What you can do is like the video, subscribe, because that helps out the channel immensely as well. All right, so let's get into Alex Bregman. And, when I heard this story, I had mixed emotions, and we're going to get into why. Really, I did. So apparently, the Mets have interest in Alex Bregman. From the Astros, the guy's been a winner. He's been a winner, and they continue to be linked to this man. I've heard early on in the offseason, but I didn't really believe it back then. But right now, it's reported that the club has strong interest in third baseman Alex Bregman, according to Ari Alexander. Ari Alexander of Houston KPR C2's network NBC. That's a mouthful. Okay, so Bregman would be another addition to a Mets club that is hoping to return to the playoffs, more specifically the World Series. Last year, Bregman slashed a 260 batting average, 315 on base, 453 slug, 26 home runs, 30 doubles, and played in 145 games. And also, he had the highest hard hit percentage last year since 2019. And 2019, that's when he had that MVP like year. Along with his impressive offensive numbers, Bregman also brings a gold glove defense at the hot corner. He ranked in the 91st percentile in outs above average in 2024 and was rewarded with his first gold glove at third. Very important, folks. Very important, because David Stearns, we're trying to figure out which direction David Stearns is trying to go in. Is he trying to get Pete at first, or is he trying to improve the third base defense and possibly move Vientos to first? And, Vientos is a guy who made strides at third, great strides, but would he ever get to the level of a Bregman? Would he? Possibly not this year. So, if you want to have an elite third baseman this year, or at least a gold glove third baseman, Bregman could be your guy. Whether or not the Mets move on their interest is yet to be seen. Bob Nightingale reported earlier this offseason that Bregman was seeking an 8-year deal north of $200 million. It seems high, but if the Mets want Bregman, Alexander reports, the cost supposedly wouldn't prohibit the Mets, wouldn't stop them. All right. In terms of a potential $200 million deal for Bregman after the Soto signing, Alexander wrote, those within the industry characterize the Mets as more interested in getting what they want, rather than trying to adhere to any sort of budget. I mean, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So industry experts think or suppose that there isn't a budget for the Mets, that they want to get better regardless. A deal of an average annual value and length might seem outlandish because Bregman will soon be 31. And he's also a Scott Boras client. The Yankees, Red Sox, and Astros were also named as potential suitors. So in this situation, it would be considered a strong four. So the Mets would be the fourth team. And it's so ironic because the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Mets were all in on the Soto sweepstakes. So, and apparently this is a huge Yankee target. Like Alex Bregman is believed to be, their number one option right now to target. So imagine they lose another option to the New York Mets. That would be kind of fun to watch. Fun to watch. If the Mets were to add Bregman, it could spell the end of Pete Alonso's tenure in Queens. Bregman would presumably shift over to third, sending Mark Vientos to first. You know what, folks? I'm doing a new series. This is Hot Stove Episode 1. I think if this move actually happened, this would set off a chain of dominoes. We're going to do videos about those dominoes, but let me just give you a preview. You get Alex Bregman, go to third. Um, Now you need Mark Vientos. You don't need him at third anymore. You move him to first. Vientos has improved a lot defensively at third. First base, presumably, he can improve there as well. But in the meantime, you have a Gold Glove winner at short. Now you have a Gold Glove winner at third. You got a guy like Clay Holmes, who's a ground ball pitcher. You got a bunch of guys in your rotation. Mr. Splitter himself, Kodai Senga, ground ball pitchers. So you got guys who would benefit greatly from having improved defense. How much do the Mets value that? How much do they value that more than the home run and Pete's defense or Mark Vientos' defense? I think they do at this point. And if you get a Bregman and you put Mark Vientos at first, now you have expendable chips. What chips do you mean? Well, a guy like Ronnie Mauricio, he's close to the majors. He's expendable. A guy like Brett Beatty would never have a chance of making it on this Mets roster with Vientos and Bregman, at the corners. He's expendable. You got pitchers out there. The rumors are out there galore. You got Cease. You got Castillo. Those are two guys, and both of those guys I would target, folks. Both of those guys. So let's continue to look into this Bregman situation. All right. In fact, let me you know what? Let me do this. Let me do this so we can share this together. All right, folks. So let's look at a couple things. At first, let's look at baseball. Not Baseball Savant. We'll look at that momentarily. But let's just refer to Baseball Reference, and we can learn a couple things really quickly. Okay, as we could see, going from 2024 to 2023 to 2022, Bregman has a very respectable wins above replacement, a very respectable WAR, 4.1 2024, 4.9 2023, 4.6 2022. I mean, if you go as high 2019, 8.9, 7.9, 4.0. So in the majority of his career, if you take out 2020, which was a shortened season, that's only 2 seasons. And actually, you know what? Take out his rookie year because he only paid 200 at bats. And actually, yeah, he had 400 bats in 2021. So basically, every single year besides 2021, he's had at least a 4 wins above replacement. That is extremely respectable. This year, he had 26 home runs, 75 RBIs. He had 260 batting average. Now, this is the thing that he dipped down this year. I would say uncharacteristically, although this year it was said that he has hit the ball just as hard or as hard as he did in 2019, but this year we'll notice his on-base percentage is significantly lower than his career. He had a 315 on-base percentage and his career is 366. Also, his walks, he's known for being a very patient hitter, as we'll see in his Baseball Savant. And stay tuned because there are things that he does that are very, very consistent. Walking is normally one of them. This year, maybe he had a bit of the Pete Alonso effect. There were some injuries on the Astros this year, so maybe the support around him wasn't as strong. But even furthermore, he wasn't as patient as we could see in 634 plate appearances, only 44 walks, and the lowest on base in quite a while. Also, his OPS is the lowest in his career at 768. So, are those things just a blip, or are they, when a guy turns 30, you say, hey, is he going on the downtrend, or is it just a blip in his career? Now, if you're going to give him an 8-year contract, these are all things you have to evaluate. Really, you have to evaluate. So let's look at his baseball savant and see if we can learn more things. But actually, you know what? The guy seems to be I like the fact that he's very consistent in terms of how he contributes defensively and offensively. It looks like I would expect him to be a very solid 25, 80 RBI guy. Now, do you consider that to be worth 200 million? I guess you got to couple that with the fact that he's a very good glove and he's had that playoff experience. So, you might really value that. David Stearns is a guy who might really value that. All right, so let's look at Baseball Savant really quickly as well. Okay, so let's look and examine Baseball Savant. Now, I mentioned there are some things that Bregman has done very consistently over his career. Base on ball in 2024 wasn't one of them. But throughout the course of his career, he has been very good at getting on base. So usually this is in the 80, 90th percentile. It's not. But here are some things that he's always in the upper echelon. K's percentage. He's a very good discipline at bat, doesn't strike out, doesn't have a high K percentage. He's in the 94th percentile. That is elite. And he's always consistently in that category, in the elite category. Whiff percentage, 98th percentile. Chase rate, 82nd percentile. These are signs of a guy's discipline. Squared up percentage this year, 96th percentile. So here you see here are some things that he does elite. Now, if you go trickle upward, I'm not saying he's bad, but these are more in the middle of the pack. Expected WOBA, 52nd percentile. Expected batting average, not bad, 66th percentile. Expected slug, 60th percentile. Expected average exit velocity, 51st percentile. Hard hit percentage, 51st percentile. So there are things that he does well, really well, elite, and here are things that he does, pretty much mediocre. And then when you go down to his range, again, we already mentioned that he was in the 91st percentile. So, Alex Bregman, what you're going to look at is you're going to get an improved defensive situation at third base, no doubt about it. And it really depends on the philosophy of David Stern. It really, really does. Okay, so like I said, it's going to come down to the philosophy of David Stearns. What does he prefer? Because if you look at let's just say the basic facts, you're probably going to sign either Alex Bregman or you're going to sign Pete Alonso. It looks like you're going to sign them for both similar amounts, or Bregman might cost you more because he plays defense, the hot corner, and it looks like he's looking for north of 200 million. 8-year contract. They're both around the same age. In fact, I think Bregman is a year older. So, what do you value? Bregman gets you defense. He gives you that elite glove. He allows Vientos to go over to first. You might think that Vientos has a higher ceiling than Pete in terms of range, in terms of, how he can eventually become a better first baseman in a year or two. And then also, too, how much confidence do you have in Pete? Was last year an aberration, or do you see Pete going downhill? There are things discipline-wise that Alex Bregman has way in spades over Pete. Walk rate, K rate, chase rate, whiff rate. Those things, if you bring up Pete Alonso's baseball savant, are very, very poor, folks. Very, very poor. So in terms of hitter, you're not going to get a guy in Bregman who can give you like a mammoth home runs and a guy who's going to be consistent 40 home run guy. You're going to get a more contact oriented guy who doesn't strike out a lot, who has the potential to walk a lot, who's more disciplined, who's probably better in situational hitting, and who's a champion, who knows how to win, and I don't want to like slight Pete because we saw him last year in the playoffs do big things. But I guess Stearns is predicting how Pete's going to play out the rest of his career. Maybe he sees, if I got to sign one of these guys, they're both around the same age. I think when Pete's age 34, he's going to be a lot older of a 34 than a Bregman. Bregman is a guy who came up as a shortstop. He came up as an elite athlete. Now he slid over to third base, but coaches, I heard some of his old coaches, and they said Bregman, Alex, although he's 30, 31, he's a young 30, 31, a young 30, 31. So, I mean, all these factors have to be considered. And then, the pitchers that are going to be pitching, that's also a consideration. Are they going to be that much more successful with a left side of Bregman and Lindor rather than a left side of Vientos and Lindor? Those are also factors. So, I'm starting to believe that Stearns likes the Bregman piece. In the beginning of the offseason, I kind of got that inclination, but then I heard a lot about how we're re-signing Pete and about, Goo Gaga over Pete. It could be, let's pivot to Bregman just so that Pete, because Pete's market is bare and, they're trying to create some momentum around Pete's market. Apparently the Yankees were interested, and maybe this is the Mets way of saying, hey, you know what, Pete, if you want to go to the Yankees, that's fine. We'll take Bregman. The Yankees will take you. It's a game of cat and mouse. That's what a lot of this thing, a game of cat and mouse. But at the end of the day, the Mets, they'll improve their defense with Bregman. They might get a little less home runs, but I think they have many guys on the team that have potential 30 home run power. So that doesn't really worry me. Plus, you got Mr. Juan Soto. So, the Mets, like I said, they're going to have to, really solidify their team by improving their pitching situation, but getting a defensive stud like Bregman, that certainly doesn't help. Hurt. Hurt. Tell me what you think. Like and subscribe the video, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I will talk to you soon, and stay tuned for the next episode in our Hot Stove series. Have a great night, folks.